Before I go on into what's next, I did want to talk a little bit about the network and how it came to be, because again, it's something that everybody in here knows about, and that's where the presentation comes in. So we're going to do this very high tech. Andy, if you can go to the next one. Just a couple of quotes here about the network. It's hard to read that a little bit, but the SEC network launched in August, and it launched at the time as the largest cable programming network in television history. So you can throw in CNN and Fox and any other cable channel you want to mention, and the SEC network had the largest distribution at launch of any cable network. And let me tell you what that word means, because I spoke earlier today and I'm not sure if I was clear. And I'll talk about it a lot. Distribution basically is how people get the channel. It's either through your cable that comes into your house, it's either through your satellite dish that's on your roof, it can be through your computer, it can be a lot of different ways. But there are in the cable universe about 110 million cable households. So that's the universe, cable and satellite. And so what we're talking about when we talk about distribution is how many of those cable households, satellite households, is the program available in. So that's a little bit about distribution, which we'll get into a little bit more. Go ahead to that next one. So here's where we are now. When we launched, we were probably at about 65 million getting the service and about 89 million available. So that's two different things. Available means that you can get it, but you have to buy a certain level of package. When you receive it, you're already getting, that you already have that level of package in your plan. So again, all the major players, if you watched this at all over the summer, you saw at about 1st of July, people started jumping on board, and you heard announcements like Comcast and DirecTV and Cox and Charter and Time Warner Cable, et cetera, et cetera. Because here's what happened. The key to the SEC network and its success is people like you guys and me, the fans. The fans are what drove the distribution of this network. Because the property was so enjoyed and so admired and loved by people in our part of the country primarily, they were calling their cable provider, their satellite provider, saying, when are we getting the SEC network? Because if we don't, I'm going to one of these guys that offer it. And so that started a domino effect about the 1st of July, and you saw a bunch of cable providers, satellite providers, start putting the channel on. Announcements start coming out pretty regularly that this was going to be made available. So the demand was what really drove this. And again, it was good old American business of supply and demand. If somebody has a product and I want that product, I'm going to call or I'm going to make some noise until I get that product. And so that's exactly what happened, and that's why we are now up to 91 million households out of that 110 that exist, which is very, very impressive, and it's been a great success in terms of launch and in terms of the distribution, the coverage. Because the last thing the Southeastern Conference office in Birmingham wanted was the first Saturday in September to get a lot of irate phone calls from fans going, how come you took my games off the air? How come I can't get them? And then they would have to explain, well, your carrier hadn't put it on yet, and they didn't want to hear that. And so the SEC was fortunate that the coverage was as widespread and was as successful as it was. And again, part of this, and this is something you guys already probably know as well, all of these agreements also provided for activation of the Watch ESPN app on your smartphone, your tablet, so that you could watch the linear cable network on your device. So it was not only sitting in my house watching on my big screen, but it's also on my device. So very important to get both pieces of that puzzle put together. So this is a video, and it played really well this morning. It'll highlight some of the programming from when we launched to where we are now and some of the things we're doing. And so if you can make that play, Andy, now you went too far. I think you have to use your mouse there, and it'll bring up. Go back, and there it is.
There we go.
see that from back here. There it is.
There we are. Let's see if we have sound. Good evening, everybody. I'm Bamasportscom. Welcome to our brand new home, the SEC Network. And get ready to meet the most passionate fans in all the sport. And you can see they are already raising the sound. You worked for this moment. About to open this cage up and let y'all out. Okay. Open this cage up. Open this cage up. For the next 60 minutes.
History will be written tonight, if you believe. Just do your job.
George down. Delaware Kirby. Got it. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to SEC Nation. Tebow's Freak of the Week.
Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
When you wait, when you're a defensive player, that's when you're lost.
In between now and
Welcome to SEC Now. This is your home for everything SEC.
This particular defensive end is going to be unblocked. Guess which direction Derrick Henry tries to hit the hole, bug?
The wrong way.
this was Tuesday.
Facing adversity is big, Dari, especially on the SEC Network.
Show everybody that smile one more time here. We get to see.
Talk about this play.
Trying to disguise a little bit. The sound's obviously going to come off the edge here.
You turned me around, Mike. I'm not going to say another word.
Good grief.
I've had better clarity at a Wendy's drive-thru.
Here, you take Georgia win and the 31. Yeah, freaking code. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Load it, take it, track it.
Damn, am I on? Okay. You are looking live.
So that's sort of a summary of kind of where we are and where we've been. Hopefully, again, you've seen some of those programs and some of the things on the network through the course of the fall. So a little bit more about programming specifically. Obviously, primetime football. We have Brent Musburger, Jesse Palmer, who've called those games, and that was important when we launched, to have the credibility of announcers like those guys and have those people who are experienced, who are well-known, household names in college sports. And, to get a guy like Brent Musburger, huge gift for the network, and really brought a lot to our programming for the fall and carrying the games. 48 games aired during the inaugural season, live, and then hit it again, there you go. And then 22 games featuring ranked teams. So, again, a great start in our football coverage. You saw SEC Nation, our traveling show. It was here in Tuscaloosa for the Florida game, right across over at Moore Hall, and had a great turnout here. I think you saw some of the clips with the guys with the fedoras on and the houndstooth hats. So it was a really good show, and I'll tell you, one of the objectives of that show is to really build credibility with the fans. And so you didn't see it, and you would never see it, but every week those guys would go out and really greet and meet with the fans and do autographs, do pictures. Tim Tebow, I didn't realize how popular he was, but he would command an audience every week wherever he went. And so it was really, really a good show, and it did a lot of good things besides provide good programming, but it helped build the reputation of the network with the fan base. So, and there's a shot of the two guys, Tim and Marcus Spears, who played at LSU. Again, Nation was very popular. It went head-to-head with Game Day every Saturday, and we did all 14 campuses. We traveled 9,370 miles, and again went to every campus and did a live show from there on a Saturday morning. So that was a good deal for us. So the SEC Network is 365 days, 7 days a week, And so it's not just football. We have the programming, the studio shows. The studio's in Charlotte, which most of y'all probably know. SEC Now is our version of Sports Center, and it's on every night, and different talent, different people. Greg McElroy is a big part of that, from former player here at Alabama. Again, 157 hours of coverage aired during the football season, and again, a great start for us. This is a big piece of our programming. This is the introduction to Paul's show every day, if you hadn't seen it.
I'm an Alabama fan till I die.
War Eagle.
I'm looking forward to our damn show back. This show is the best show in America because you can say whatever you want to.
You're obviously not listening very closely.
Once they get on television, there's no stopping us. We already know who the best teams in the country. Stay down south, Paul.
The SEC is just so much better than everyone else. Hey, very pleasant good afternoon on a Thursday. The college football weekend, it's here.
So love him or hate him, Paul draws viewership and draws comments. So he's been a good addition. He does his show from 2 to 6 every day, and has drawn quite a following. I'll tell you something else about, because we're looking at the picture of that studio. That was where, and I don't know if you probably didn't see it because you were at the game, but during the Iron Bowl, the SEC Network did a mega cast, and they had Paul and Greg McElroy and Marcus Spears and a former Auburn player named Cole Kubelik in the Charlotte studio watching the game and commenting on it as it was being played. So it was kind of cool to see them talking about the game as the game was going on and kind of providing their insight and critique, which again, fortunately, ESPN carried that game, which doesn't usually happen. That usually is a CBS game, and so having it on the main network, we were able to use the SEC network to have the megacast opportunity. So kind of cool to be able to pull that off. Other programming that you have seen or will see, this is our long-form programming, SEC Storied. It's somewhat like 30 for 30. We'll take former players, coaches, celebrities, dignitaries in the conference. Probably the best one we've done is one that came out last summer on the Archie Manning family. It was called The Book of Manning, and it was about Archie and his 3 sons and the relationship they had through their growing up years in New Orleans, and the Ole Miss and Alabama the Ole Miss and Tennessee connections with the family, and just a really good piece. And so these are evergreen. You can use them all the time, and so when you're a network looking for programming, you can air them and re-air them and then show them again next year. So. Basketball, we've obviously moved into now, and proud to right now boast the top team in the men's and the women's. Hit it one more time. There it is. This year's best so far. We'll hope that'll hold up. And again, our conference with 2 teams in the Final Four last year is really in a growth mode and playing much better this year as the NCAA tournaments out there. We will do 118 men's and 60 women's games this year on the network, all live. And so the commitment to all sports, baseball, same thing. We're going to have a ton of baseball games. We've got the defending champs, NCAA champs in both baseball and softball. We'll do 100 baseball games, I think, 40, 60, hit it, 50 softball games this year, live on the network. Again, providing that 365 coverage, giving programs that historically maybe not have had as much exposure, giving them the opportunity to get a lot of exposure on this network, which again goes back to everybody is seeing it because we're in a lot of homes. So it helps on so many fronts: recruiting, exposure, alumni relations. There's just a lot of residual effects that come as a result of this network and what it does. Gymnastics we're doing, I don't know if you've seen it, but your team has been on the last 2 Friday nights, 2 big meets that they had, and I think one of them maybe. But we're doing gymnastics live on Friday night, and again, the conference is so strong in gymnastics. 21 meets, again, we'll do 10 of those will be live this year. So, and then our talent, a lot of Olympians that make up the commentators on our network. And then we don't want to forget about the sport that never ends. So spring football, we don't want to forget spring football. We'll be doing every conference team that has a spring game, we will carry it. whether live or tape delay. We'll have all 14 of them on, and then we'll go right into the summer, and then you start summer practice, and then SEC Media Days, which is in Birmingham every year in July, will really be the start of the college football season. So, again, this is sort of a broad overview of our programming, and it's been very well received to date. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I hope you got the Watch ESPN app, and I hope that you see that on your app there are two SEC Network offerings. One is the linear network, which is what you would see if you were watching at home. The other is SEC Network Plus, which is a platform for games that are being carried on the digital platform only, and that would be maybe a non-conference baseball game early season, a non-conference basketball game, a track meet, something like that. And the great thing about that, and I'll say this to this group especially, is every one of our campuses, and this is what's unique about the SEC Network, every one of our campuses has a broadcast center dedicated just to the SEC Network. Alabama put a very nice one in here. All 14 schools have one of those. And students, by and large, under the direction, with some adult supervision, are running those facilities. So the point is that there are opportunities on your campus to get involved with coverage of stuff that's going to show up on the SEC Network. And again, let's go back to me 30 years ago when I didn't know what I was doing. That was an opportunity that, had it been available, would have been something you want to take advantage of, because there are chances to build resumes, to put down big events with big names that really can help you as you move out into your career. But anyway, those are the two platforms, secsports.com, the website where a lot of these events are being shown, and then the Watch app. So, and then this is just a little bit of data. This is from the Watch app, that our network football games viewership is close already to ESPN2. Well, ESPN2 has been out there for over 10 years. We've been out there less than 10 months. And so to already have viewership on the app that is equal to that is a pretty good accomplishment. And again, it all goes back to the interest, to the passion, to the love of SEC sports that people have, not just in our area, but also all over the country. And so it's pretty impressive that we're at that level already. Another part of what we do is, with our SEC Nation show, is we give sponsors an opportunity to be involved on site. And so this is one of our shows. This was in Nashville for the Vanderbilt game. And we do a lot of on-site activations with our sponsors, and we also do it at our football, that was right, you're good, with our football championship game and our women's basketball tournament. We have the SEC Fanfare event, and if you've been to Atlanta for an SEC championship game, which you would have had multiple opportunities since you're a student here at this university, you may have attended the SEC Fanfare in conjunction with that. And again, a very popular event, very well attended. We get close to 30,000 people in, and this kind of goes more to the business side of the network, which I'm going to get into in more detail in just a minute. So. And that's it. So that's all the slides we have there. But that's a little bit of an overview of what the network is, kind of how it got started, and why it has had, I think, the success that it's had thus far.